GBC Governing Body Commissioner in the Canada area, and he is also initiating Guru, and I think he's like 50 years disciple of Srila Prabhupada.
Almost.
না ওই যে আমাদের প্রভু
Maharaj has visited us a few times here in Florida, even in Tampa, and we thank you for spending your time with us today.
Thank you, Ramya. You're one of the best.
So we'll loudly welcome Maharaj on our call by saying 3 times Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Maharaj is a wonderful director of dramas. If you have not watched those, then certainly you have missed something in life. So I would encourage to watch those. Some of them are available on YouTube. So thank you so much, Maharaj, for coming. Now you may please start.
I would like to add Maharaj has also gotten the title of a walking monk. He has walked across Canada, I don't know, is it 3 times, 4 times? And across
4 times. 4 times Canada, 1 time the US, a few other countries.
So he has taken many months to walk on foot every mile across the whole country, chanting and meeting people and telling them about Krishna consciousness. A very wonderful and inspiring example. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for that nice introduction. And I wanted to say that I do have Governing Body Commission responsibilities for not only Canada, but I was also given Alaska, Minnesota, the 2 Dakotas, Montana, and Wyoming. So there's a US connection. So if any of you know you have any relatives in those states that need to be visited by us, please let me know. Of course, nobody can cross the border right now. That's the problem, thanks to Bhakta COVID-19. All right, so Ramya, give me the green light when I should start.
Prabhuji, you're on mute.
Please go ahead. Please start, Maharaj. We're eager to hear.
Thank you very much. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay, thank you very much. I've been given the tall order to look at some verses from the Bhagvatam, Canto 7, Chapter 12, The Perfect Society for Spiritual Classes. And thank you, Ramya, for bestowing upon me these verses, which don't have any purports and which are highly technical. You did give me an option for another verse, but I decided I'll take up the challenge. Okay, so we are looking at chapter 12, and it's text 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31. So bear with me. I'm just going to go over the English translation, okay? So just a little background. Narada Muni is telling all about what is the perfect society and the 4 social classes of people, beginning with brahmacharya, and then grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. And with these final verses of the chapter, we're going to see how one executes his life at the end in a more traditional way. I wouldn't try to copy the way people did things in ancient times, but the principle is what is important. Okay, so here we start with 26 and going on. This is describing the procedure. I'll just backtrack a little bit with the last verse. A sober, self-realized person who has full knowledge should merge the various parts of the body in their original sources. The holes in the body are caused by the sky. The process of breathing is caused by the air. The heat of the body is caused by fire, and semen, blood, and mucus are caused by water. The hard substances, like skin, muscle, and bone, are caused by earth. In this way, all the constituents of the body are caused by various elements, and they should be merged again into those elements. Okay, so now for today's section, there's a continuation of what to do with the body parts. Thereafter, the object of speech, along with the sense of speech, the tongue, should be bestowed upon fire. Craftsmanship and the two hands should be given to the demigod Indra. The power of movement and the legs should be given to Lord Vishnu. Sensual pleasure, along with the genitals, should be bestowed upon Prajapati. The rectum, with the power of evacuation, should be bestowed in its proper place unto Mrityu. The oral instrument, along with sound vibration, should be given to the deities presiding over the directions. The instrument of touch, along with the sense objects of touch, should be given to Vayu. Form, with the power of sight, should be bestowed upon the sun. The tongue, along with the demigod Varuna, should be bestowed upon water, and the power of smell, along with the two Ashwin Kumar demigods, should be bestowed upon the earth. And then we'll continue on. The mind, along with all material desires, should be merged in the moon demigod. All the subject matters of intelligence, along with the intelligence itself, should be placed in Lord Brahma. False ego, which is under the influence of the material modes of nature and which induces one to think, I am this body, and everything connected with this body is mine, should be merged along with material activities in Rudra, the predominating deity of false ego. Material consciousness, along with the goal of thought, should be merged in the individual living being, and the demigods acting under the modes of material nature should be merged along with the perverted living being into the supreme being. The earth should be merged in water, water in the brightness of the sun, this brightness into the air into the sky into the false ego into the total material energy, the total material energy into the unmanifested ingredients.
Looks like somehow we lost the connection with Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj is back. Sorry, Maharaj, we lost the connection. We heard last you read this unmanifested ingredients. You can unmute yourself, Maharaj, please.
How's that?
Great, perfect. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, I'll just go back just a little bit. Let's see, unmanifested. The earth should be merged in water. Water in the brightness of the sun. This brightness into the air into the sky into the false ego into the total material energy, the total material energy into the unmanifested ingredients, the pradhana feature of the material energy. And at last, the ingredient feature of material manifestation into the super soul. So then we have one more shloka left, and here's the translation. When all the material designations are thus merged into their respective material elements, the living beings, who are all ultimately completely spiritual, being one in quality with the Supreme Being,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram.
Did I lose you again, or did you lose me? We're okay now?
Yes, now we are okay, Maharaj.
Okay, where did I lose you? It looks like we're all merging into something this morning. Okay. All right, when the material body is returned to its various material elements, only the spiritual being remains. This spiritual being is Brahman and is equal in quality with Parabrahman. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, Maharaj, the connection got disconnected again. You're on mute, Maharaj. Can you please unmute? Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji, I think Maharaj joined from two devices because while he was speaking also, it was still on mute.
Can you please unmute, Maharaj?
Hello?
Yes, it's good.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Let's hope this just stays on the way it is. Okay. Om Ganadhamanda Gyanandana Shalakya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance. The spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I have my respectful obeisance to him. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We're still connected to each other?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, so as you can see, these shlokas, these verses, are quite technical, but they're significant. I think, in the human psyche, we question how this world came about and how it will be dissolved, if it will be dissolved at all, or if it just remains up here going through different transformations. Well, apparently everything will change. We will individually be our bodies will perish, and we will be absorbed in the elements. The elements that have produced this body will be something we will be consumed by at the end. And this is what particular transformation that yogis go through at the end of their life. And this is what people practice when you are, in particularly you're talking about the vanaprasth. Vanaprasth means someone who spends time in the forest and will downscale his life totally to the point that there will be nothing left of him. And I think of even kings, some great kings like Yudhishthira Maharaj, who left his palace, left his throne, left his royal garments behind, and ended up simply walking in the distance with a loincloth on. And then, if that is not enough, he finally just ends up like, at least for conditioned souls who take the spiritual path, they will just end up merging into the elements, and their soul will become united in the spiritual realm. So I was just thinking about this in terms of these verses. Two examples that we have in the Bhagvatam of great personalities that gave up their body in the fire.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare. Hare Krishna Maharaj, can you hear me? Krishna is testing how eager we are to hear. So please be patient, Vaishnavas. I'll request Maharaj to just do the audio. As Mr. Prabhu suggested, I think it's a good suggestion. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare.
His network bandwidth is low. He should go only to audio. That's the only way.
Correct. Once he comes back online, I'll put that recommendation. Thank you for your suggestion, Prabhu.
Because it open it, that's why it's little flat.
Oh, he's back. Hare Krishna Maharaj, we're sorry for the inconvenience. Maybe can we just try with the audio, so the audio can stream through smoothly, if you feel it's okay. Hare Krishna.
His audio is on mute.
Yes, Prabhuji, I'm trying to coordinate that. Maharaj, just a small suggestion. If you feel appropriate, we can just use the audio without the video. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare.
Okay. Can I ask you one thing? If everybody is in mute and the video is off, maybe then he will come.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, I'll get back to you. Hare Krishna Maharaj, can you hear?
I can hear you, yes.
Yes. I'm not sure if I was audible before. Just a small suggestion. Seems that the network you're using does not have strong bandwidth. If you could use, if you feel appropriate, just using audio without the video
Sure.
might be smoother.
Okay. Okay, I'm here.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes. You can.
Our connection should be good. I was with Gainesville yesterday. He didn't have any problem last night. And also on Thursday night as well.
Okay. Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay now. Yes, Maharaj, you can please proceed.
So we'll proceed. Okay. Okay, so getting back to our
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yes, we can hear you.
I keep getting disconnected.
Can you, I mean, again, just a suggestion, you can, is there any other way you can connect like directly via the cell phone connection, whichever company you have there, or if you're using Wi-Fi, or just swap the connections if there is an option?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, is there a dial-in number we can give Maharaj?
Dial-in, I think with the app, I think Rakesh Prabhu joins with dial-in, right? With the phone, it asks you want to dial in or...
I changed the network, so maybe we can just try this and see how it goes. It seems like it's already better.
Okay.
Prabhu, when you join, it will
Right.
ask you dial in our internet. Dial in is good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Maharaj,
maybe I'll join and I'll give the phone number, Prabhuji. Just a minute.
okay. Yes, Maharaj, you can please proceed.
Okay, well, we'll try. Okay. Hare Krishna. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yes, this seems to be much better. The video, I think this is strong connection. So,
Okay.
thank you.
That's excellent. We have persevered. Thank you so much, everyone. That was, it looks like we're starting almost again. Okay, interesting section of the Bhagavatam. Narada Muni is enlightening us as to what happens to somebody when they leave this world willingly. Most people are very, very reluctant to depart from this world. We have strong attachments. We have strings attached. And it's very hard to disconnect from this world. But if you take to the process of tapasya and following the laws of detachment, then it is possible to leave this world happily. You've mentally, psychologically prepared yourself for this. You've gone to mind over matter, and then you can be successful. There are two examples in the Bhagavatam of enlightened people that left this world going through this process. In the fourth canto of the Bhagavatam, we hear the story about Shiva and Sati. Most of you are aware of the tale, which is very, very elaborately described. And it's a story about in-law dynamics. Okay, so one of the Prajapatis, his name is Daksha, he was recognized as a lofty human being in the universe. He would sometimes be recognized as a guest of honor at some events, social / spiritual events. And one time he came to deliver a speech, and when he entered, people showed due respects to his entry. But there was one person who did not, and his name was Shiva. Shiva was absorbed in his own dhyana yoga, his meditation. We take it that he's absorbed in the Leela of the Lord Kṛṣṇa, or Lord Vishnu. And during this great assembly, Daksha was speaking, praising the people in the audience, largely because he was being praised. Thank you for being so nice to me, blah, 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 blah. But then he noticed in the distance, Shiva had not properly shown a certain etiquette and protocol according to his estimation. And so that agitated him. Oh God. So this progenitor, Daksha, he decided to take the opportunity while he had the audience in the palm of his hand to say what was on his mind. He kind of lost it, if we can use that phrase. He started to get highly critical of Shiva, who happened to be his son-in-law. And he never liked the fact that there was going to be a marriage for his daughter Sati, and she would be wed to Shiva. It was an arrangement involving Brahma, the first created being. And so he got highly critical. He said, look at this scoundrel, talking about Shiva. He's not paying any attention to me. I'm addressing him, and he's really not paying any attention whatsoever. He is totally ignoring me. Look at him. Look at his attire. Look at his clothing. Isn't it disgusting? He thought. And then he was comparing his son-in-law to having the looks like a monkey. So people started to get very agitated in the audience. And basically an argument wagered itself back and forth. And Daksha was getting very enraged because of this. He was feeling that everyone was insulting him. I have some image there. This is quite an interesting morning. The images that I'm seeing here is strange. Okay, so anyways, Daksha he left in a huff and a puff at that great assembly hall, and he was just totally disgusted with how everyone seemed to be on the attack with him. So time passed, and Shiva went to spend time with his wife Sati, and another event was taking place, this time at the home where Sati was raised, and in the household of Daksha. So Sati is known to be a very detached yogini, but she was quite drawn to this event. She was seeing all the demigods in the sky and their aerial conveyances moving in the direction of her home base, where she was born and raised. And she was seeing that the demigods were accompanied by their wives. They were dressed very beautifully. And it was a big outing. And Sati was a little distracted from her own meditation. And she expressed to her husband, Shiva, I think maybe I should go to that big event. Everybody all over from the universe are going to attend. And after all, this was her logic, her thinking. They are my parents. They are there. And I really don't think I should miss this. So Shiva's intuition was very strong, and he was opposed to her going. He didn't think it was a good idea. He felt that there was going to be something very inauspicious taking place with her presence there at Daksha's home. So, like husbands and wives, they usually have discussions. They don't always agree with each other. Am I right about that? When they have I'm seeing some nodding going on. And that's quite common. Prabhupada talked about when Gandhi was in South Africa at the Satyagraha, the sort of retreat that he set up. And Gandhi and his wife were having an argument. She, I can't remember her name exactly, was not agreeing to cleaning the latrine. It was her turn to do that. And she was not up to it, to that task or that chore. So they had an argument. It was kind of publicly known. And so Prabhupada was telling us about this, that this is the way of the husband and the wife. And Prabhupada also didn't see eye to eye with his wife sometimes. Sometimes he might have been a little hard on her, but there was an occasion where somebody was selling tea biscuits. This is going back to Kolkata, the days of Kolkata. And so she decided to trade some of Prabhupada's books, the Bhagvatam, for tea biscuits. And he got on her case about that. So they were disagreeing. And it does happen. It's just the case. So Shiva allowed his wife to go to this big event. And of course, he was not inclined to escort her because he was so vilified by Daksha the time before. And so what he did was, as a substitute, he sent some of his followers, Shaivites, to accompany her and give her protection just in case. So Sati was happy to be home, happy to see acquaintances at this big event, and everyone's dressed really nice, feeling good, expressing sweetness to each other. But the only person who wasn't so nice was her own biological father, Prajapati. It was really beyond her to try to understand and cold. So two things that really attacked her heart were, first of all, is that her husband Shiva was so very expressively dealt with in a wrong way by her father at the great assembly hall, where there was big yagyas and sacrifices going on the previous time that we described. And now she was again insulted, but now personally, because her father just basically ignored her. The behavior was improper, and she was really trying to get her attention. You know, the daughter likes to be with the father. She likes to be, or should be, in his company, feeling safe, protected. The father's role usually is to provide and to protect, right? The two P's. But she was feeling totally ignored and very frustrated. And so she decided to display herself or exhibit herself in a way that shocked everybody that was there. She sat in the yogic position and she started to allow her body to be consumed by the elements. As we are reading the description here, the gross elements being consumed into the subtle elements and finally vanishing. She actually invoked her Agni, their internal Agni, and her body bursted up into flames. It shocked everybody that was there at the scene. And there couldn't be anything more terrible. And at the same time, the way that her father conducted himself during this, he didn't have many feelings. So Daksha can come across as a bit cold-hearted, you know, and so this is what happened. So I'm just mentioning about the story, this particular pastime, because this is one instance of a great high-minded soul, a devotee, who was devoted not only to the Lord, but to her husband Shiva, and decided it was time to part. She had that mystic about power and ability to consume herself and to enter into oblivion. The nice side of the story is that Shiva became married again to Parvati, and it was the same soul that take on a new body. She was the daughter of the king of the Himalayas, and so in this way, they were not really separated. You can imagine Shiva was very upset also for a time, and he retaliated through his associates. They had, Daksha had, let's say, received his just desserts, and he had received the head of a goat. And it seemed to me, I don't know the significance of this, haven't looked deeply into this particular story in that regard, but in English we use that saying scapegoat, you know. Goats their heads are known to be cut off. It's an old tradition that's quite common even today in places like Kolkata. You know, try to put the blame or put the karma on the goat. This is a tradition that's gone on goats' heads and bodies are offered to the goddess. And the person who executes the killing of the goat will say the Sanskrit mantra, two syllables, you me. It means you me. So I'm taking your life. In the future, you will take my life. And in this way, the goat perishes and moves on. So it seems to me that the head of a goat is a symbol of someone who's maybe been scapegoating and putting the blame on others for his troubles. And this way I think Daksha was trying to scapegoat Shiva. Now that this is a Bhakti Marg Swami interpretation. Excuse me for the speculation, mental speculation. But on a happy note, Daksha did seek redemption. He did ask for forgiveness. And so everyone lived happily ever after. All Vedic stories have a nice ending in the end. I remember Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj was giving a class here in Toronto, and he was talking about everything's happy in the end, just like a Bollywood movie. You know, there's always conflict, confrontational issues. There's always some villain, some antagonist, but in the end, the antagonist has a change of heart or gets killed these days by a gun. And then the couple that were involved, the sort of Romeo and Juliet, come together to live happily ever after. Okay, so that's one instance of a pure soul who gave up her body and understood the technique because she was very practiced in mystical yoga. Another example is given at the tail end of the Kali Yuga, because this story here, it's a very old, the Shiva, Daksha, Sati triangle. That's an old Puranic story. But from the Mahabharata, after the war was over, as Kali Yuga is setting in, we have the story of Dhritarashtra, who was the blind king. And he's an interesting character because he would be swayed. Like right now, I'm in a room, and believe it or not, I'm in Canada, and it gets hot here. And I have at the corner, the other end of the room, I've got a fan, and it's what do you call it? Vacillating. It's going back and forth, covering the room. So Dhritarashtra was like that. He would just go back and forth. He's supposed to be the king and make very definitive, firm decisions on what's good for the population. The problem Dhritarashtra had was there was an element of unfairness in the way he ruled. So his younger brother Vidura, who was quite enlightened and very wise, would always give good counsel. And Dhritarashtra, who was blind since birth, would say, Vidura, you are very wise. And yes, I agree with what you have to say. So in one ear, Vidura would be giving to Dhritarashtra counsel. But then in the other ear, his affectionate son, Dhritarashtra, would be hearing from Duryodhana, the eldest of the 100 issues. He would say totally the opposite of what Vidura would say. And Duryodhana, he was always, let's say, had an agenda. He was very self-motivated for his own position. And that was his big problem. In fact, Vidura suggested, this child who was born, that's when he was born, Duryodhana, I think you should sacrifice him because I see into the future. And the future tells if he's allowed to live, if he's allowed to exist in this world, he will wreak havoc and will cause a world war, So sacrifice him now. And Dhritarashtra could not do that because he had this deep affection for his son, naturally. I mean, Duryodhana went on to become a very beautiful man, one who was quite a good statesman in many respects. His people loved him, but he had a problem. His problem was he wasn't nice to his uncle Vidura. He wasn't nice to his cousins, the Pandavas, and he certainly wasn't nice to Kṛṣṇa. So when you get down to everybody on that list and you cannot show affection to those who deserve love, then you're going to get a kick in the butt, which is what happened to Duryodhana. So anyways, Duryodhana, the war went on 18 days of back and forth, Pandavas against the Kauravas. Pandavas winning one day, Kauravas the next day. It was back and forth. It was one of those real intense games, you can say. It was like a dance in a way. It was going back and forth. They were practically tied, when it came to demolishing the other side. And at the tail end, it was just like, okay, who's really going to win in the end? Who will be victorious? So, as you know, it was Duryodhana who fell and he died. And then what was left was whoever remained on the battlefield. The Pandavas ruled with Yudhishthira as the sovereign of the world. And Dhritarashtra, however, was protected and lived in the domicile, the palace of the Pandavas, and went on for some years. I believe it was 26 years or so. Then Vidura, who had gone on a long trip, a long foot journey, and I like him for that. He's one of my idols. Vidura being a long distance walker, and there's also Vamanadev, and there's Balaram. These three personalities are my heroes. They did long walks. And so Vidura came back to the palace, and when no one was looking, when no one was around, the two brothers, Vidura and Dhritarashtra, had a heart-to-heart. And it was basically Vidura who took the monopoly of the conversation. And Dhritarashtra was basically listening to his younger brother. What did Vidura say? This is all outlined in the first canto of the Bhagavatam. Well, first of all, he said, get out of here. Get out. And in Dhritarashtra's mind, what do you mean get out? He said, get out, it's time to go. It's time to leave this world. And get out and go to the north. People go to the north. They go to the Himalayas. They go there to spend their last days in the cave or in some remote place. So Vidura's dialogue, the conversation, was very, very strong. And I would say it's a classic piece, He's saying, you've been blind from birth, you're still, and you were physically blind, you were spiritually blind, You're getting older, you're coughing on mucus, you have this problem, everything's starting to malfunction. Your days are numbered, my dear brother. It's time to go. Do not be attached to your position. Do not be attached to the palace. Go to where life is simple. Go to the forest, in fact. Go to the mountains where you are forced to live simple and take care of matters, meaning take care of yourself. May this be your last life. Consume yourself into the elements. So Dhritarashtra, he did not raise a big fuss, and there was no Duryodhana around to counsel him. He was gone. long gone. So we just listened. And he agreed. And he got off his throne, his high chair. And we can say that maybe he was under the influence of dementia, loss of good power, ability to recall. So really it was time, the fag end of life, as Prabhupada used to put it, was time for him to go. So unceremoniously, he left his seat, his royal seat. And I say unceremoniously because there was no one there to watch him go. There was no great promenade. There was no pomp and circumstance. There was no big royal, let's say, exodus for him. He just went quietly. And his great devoted wife, Gandhari, she also left and followed her husband. And at a particular point in time, after they had traveled quite the long distance, and you can imagine what that would be like. Not very easy for two blind people, one who's blind from birth, the other one blindfolded, going and making their way, struggling. That would be so interesting to see their struggle through darkness, and it reminds me a little bit of where I live here in Southern Ontario. Maybe some of you know, when African slaves saw an opportunity to escape the South in America, they traveled in the night. They struggled in the night. And there were not so many open fields. There was a lot of forests. Their destination was go way up north. In fact, come into Canada. And they followed the North Star. They followed a trail which was called the Underground Railroad. So there were railroad tracks. Some of them could be on there. They would have to move in the night and hide out in the bush in the day. And this would go on for weeks and months until finally they came to freedom. And this is historically accounted for. So people of Black origin who were slaves made it up to Canada, but Canada wasn't a nation yet. And it was a British colony, and British administrators, dignitaries, they couldn't do much about it. So they had what was called slave catchers from the South, and they would go back and find those people who had escaped slavery. They'd bring them back, and you could imagine how they would be treated. So just picture yourself, okay? You're trying to save your life, you're bringing your family, your kids, and you're trying to not be seen, and you're traveling in the night. You just follow the North Star. And the area where I am, we found there were tens of thousands of people, Black slaves that came into the Toronto area, and some of them were forced to go back by the slave catchers from the South. So I'm just talking about the austerity. Imagine, I never thought about this before, but imagine this king, Dhritarashtra, and his wife, the queen, Gandhari, leaving and struggling through the forest, watching them. And finally, at some point, they decided, this is it. We will not go any further. We will now leave our bodies here. So through the process of some form of dhyana yoga, their meditation, they decided that they would leave this world. And some of the descriptions given here in the Bhagavatam are what we can understand how technically their bodies were consumed by fire, the fire into the next element, which would be air into the ether, and finally they would be gone. And that basically is the happy story, because we understand that Dhritarashtra emptied his mind out from all that was negative and filled it with notions of the absolute, the Supreme Lord. So it's a beautiful story about people traveling and great souls leaving their bodies. And here's how we see. The closest example I can give was I spent a couple of weeks out near a farm, and I stayed. To get to the farm, I was helping these devotees harvest. I'm a sannyasi, but I can be a farmer too. So I'd put on regular clothes, farmer's clothes, and it took about 40 minutes to walk there, back and forth. So every morning, first of all, we saw a fresh roadkill. It was a raccoon. And so he was pretty full. The next day, there was less of a body. Next day, less. His body was consumed by the elements. The sun was drying him up. Maggots were coming and eating away at his body. And on the last day, practically, there was nothing left. It was like he was merged into the road. So that is the way of this body, the way of this material existence. And so we basically have to deal with and accept that reality. I will go, and to prepare myself, I have to change my consciousness from a me consciousness to a Kṛṣṇa consciousness. I have to make major adjustments and paradigm shifts. And that is what the training in Kṛṣṇa consciousness is all about. So it's better to take up austerities now, because we may not have an appetite before we leave, and leave this world. It'll be difficult for us. Janmashtami is just around the corner. We will be fasting. We will be happy fast, I think. And then after the fast, there will be a feast. You just have to add the E to the fast, and it will be a feast. And Prabhupada oftentimes himself, he actually would eat well before the day of the fast, because he said fasting is no fun. But we do it basically to get a hint of what it is all about, this world. And it is not about satisfying or fueling the senses. It's about emptying them out and coming to a point of, let's say, vacuum, you can say. We empty out the polluted mind and we fill it with positive Kṛṣṇa. And so in terms of my walks across Canada, people ask, what benefit did I get out of it? Well, here's one. In chapter 7, 8, 11, 10, there's all kinds of descriptions of how we are to see Kṛṣṇa through the elements in the Bhagavad Gita. So you learn, okay, that's Kṛṣṇa. I traveled through the Nevada desert, and it was very different for me. I never had seen such a dynamic before. You just walk and the sun just takes the moisture right out of you, just drinks it up. And it was an interesting experience. The good thing about walking in the desert in Nevada and part of California was that there were no mosquitoes at night. There are no mosquitoes. So then I was in California, and it was starting to be less of a desert. And so one evening, it was like dusk, and I saw a dragonfly. Oh, dragonfly means mosquito. Mosquito means water. There's going to be water finally. I hadn't seen water for days, So water can be very welcoming. So we're dealing with the elements all the time. COVID is some kind of combination of some elements, unfavorable, I guess in some ways, but favorable in other ways. He's forcing us to simplify, to downscale, to try to get along with each other, and maybe to work towards building up your immunity. It's forcing us to get more serious about our spirituality, maybe to read more, to take up our japa more seriously. So that's the way devotees see everything. There's nothing that's really bad. Everything is good. Even what seemingly is bad, we see as good because of how we approach it. So just finally, Vibhada Santashashvat Tatra Tatra Jagadguru. Queen Kunti, the mother of Arjuna, the mother of the Pandavas, she said, "My Lord," she's talking to Kṛṣṇa, "we've gone through many calamities. Me and my family, we've gone through a lot of difficulties. We don't mind, because every time it happened, whenever we were faced with, confronted with challenges, we took it to heart. We thought that this is good. We're forced to think of you. And when we are forced to think of you, it means that we will no longer meet with repeated birth and death. So if difficulties come our way, we should see it as a blessing and not so much as an opportunity to scapegoat, okay? Oh, it's Trump, or it's Trudeau, or it's this or that. Stop the blame game. Or you can't blame it on China or whatever you want to do, or wherever was in the laboratory, whatever your conspiracy theory it may be. See every opportunity as a chance to, well, of course, to play it safe, to be careful, watch how you stride, watch how you walk in this world. But it is an opportunity to get spiritual. So thank you very much for listening. And the material technical world is problematic somewhat. And we had a perfect demonstration of that earlier on, but we got through on it in the end. So I'm so grateful. I'm seeing some really great smiling faces and really beautiful people. Yes, I see Kashish. I see Ramia, Haribo, my good friend. And I see Arundhati Rai and Manjulali, Lali, Priya, Devidasi, and many others. Thank you very much. Should we leave some time for questions?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for the wonderful katha and sharing your experiences. And I apologize for some technical challenges. And so at this point, if anyone has questions, you please raise your hand, because you're having a lot of technical issues. Then I will unmute you, and then you'll get a chance to speak. So please raise your hands. So Vamsivilas Prabhu, I'll unmute you. You can ask your question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the wonderful class. You mentioned that about the GBC, you're the GBC in some states in the US. I'm now stuck in a place called Memphis, Tennessee. And because of COVID, some of the devotee association I had here are leaving for India for good. So please guide me as to how I should get association. Of course, that these calls do help. But Maharaj, can you please tell me what is the best I can do?
What else can you do apart from doing the Zoom calls and so on like that? Well, we've learned that from the books. They are always companions. The Bhagvatam and other books delivered by Srila Prabhupada are none different from the Lord, from Lord Kṛṣṇa himself. So that's there. You can use a telephone. You can visit places of pilgrimage. I don't know what it's like in the States at the moment, but devotees are able to, when you get a chance to travel, visit some temple. And I think that's the best thing that can be done for the moment. And also you can, in Tennessee where you are, make some devotees, okay? And then automatically you have couples, you have really company. Let's say a man, a bachelor, he feels lonely and he's thinking, I need a life partner, okay? So then he pursues it, and it's natural to do that. So then he finds a nice, Mataji, and hopefully she likes him, and they get married, and then they have children. So in this way, you expand your company. So in the same way, you try to find some people in your locality, those who are inclined, sattvic people who have maybe a Hindu background or a yoga background, and try to get connected with them and start to build your own little community and take kind of a leadership role in that regard. Not that you have to be in charge necessarily, but what you can do is arrange for meetings for everyone to come together. So I believe that's practically how it can be done. So that, I'm just talking about practicality. What's pragmatic? And that's the way we should be looking at it. And if less pragmatic is just pray to Kṛṣṇa in your heart. He's there, and just say, Kṛṣṇa, please make arrangements so that I can have more devotional company. So on a subtle level and on a more physical level, I think you can tackle these two approaches and you'll get what you want, my dear sir.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Because this COVID virus is so prominent in everyone's life and in their consciousness right now, it seems like these examples you quote of persons who intentionally left their body, mostly they were pretty much on their own when they did that. But in this era, it seems like death is confronting us very vividly and very immediately, and kind of afraid that we're going to be isolated when it comes. We're not going to be allowed to have any association.
Oh, yes, yes.
So is there a preferred way to approach this subject of preparing for death in that way?
I think devotees have been warned, even Prabhupada says it in different ways, that we can go at any time, any moment, and we might be alone, or we might be in the company of all of our loved ones, and suddenly we have a heart attack, bang, you're gone. So I think we should just be prepared for any circumstance. And I think that's, be prepared for death with dignity, and because we don't know what Kṛṣṇa has in store for us, or, through material nature. So that's why we chant Hare Krishna, because it can come upon us at any moment. Just simply chanting means Kṛṣṇa's with me. So that story is there of Katwanda, says, will I have a chance to die? And will I know when I die? And the message that came to him said, we're going to die right now. Oh, okay, I better get ready. So anything can happen at any time, so be ready. You can be sitting at home relaxed and drinking a smoothie and watching your favorite Bollywood show, and then suddenly a bomb comes down, or a tree comes down crashing on and landing right on your lap, and you're gone. So I think we have to be ready for the worst. Don't be have an anticipation of happy endings physically. So I think that mindset should be very strong. I can go anytime. People who went through war, like my parents, they would tell us, excuse me, and my siblings, about the war and what it was like, and the depression that they went through in Europe. And so anything can come, so be prepared. And I think that the way to do that is that cherish what you have now. Because it might go, it might leave you. So value it now. And at least you can say in your next life, if you're able to recall, okay, I was able to be nice to everybody. And I'll quote, I know Ramia, you would remember this. One of our popular singers of the time when we all grew up was Joni Mitchell. You remember her?
Yes.
And she sang a song, Big Yellow Taxi. She was a Canadian girl. She was quite a musical genius. She was a musical genius. And she's still living. She's struggling now. She can go any day now. She had suffered from polio. So in one of her favorite hit songs, she wrote a chorus, don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Okay, and that song was written when she was in Hawaii. There was a pink hotel in there was once a botanical garden, and they moved it. So the opening lyrics are, they paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Okay, so people they missed the paradise, the botanical garden, when it was moved and replaced by a pink hotel, a boutique, and a whatever. So the chorus in there is, I'll say it once again, don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Okay, so that means that whatever is there, cherish it. And we live in a culture that is never happy with what you have. There's always a gnawing, a craving for getting something that you don't have. So why not look at what you have and say, this is a blessing. Thank you, Kṛṣṇa. So that holds true for people, for devotees. Cherish them. They are treasures. And so if you hold them to your heart, it won't matter then when you go. When you will be struck down dead by a lightning bolt, it won't matter, because you're holding these cherishable things in your heart. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, could I ask one other question?
Yes.
In this era of the COVID, let's call it, has created a lot of fear for personal and for those who are important to us. And how do we deal with this fear that just keeps being pushed on us?
Well, I think fear is healthy. Fear is natural. Eating, sleeping, mating, and fearing. Prabhupada usually put it like that, those 4 different categories. Fearing or defending. We do it all the time. We fear all the time. Will I lose my job? Or, oh God, I'm gaining a lot of weight. Oh my God, I can't even fit in my clothes anymore. So there's fear all the time. But devotees learn how to adjust. They accept it, again, with dignity, like death. And instead of resorting to sense gratification, they resort to spiritual activities. So if fear is removed from our lives, we would be very complacent. And that's a greater enemy than fear itself. When you get relaxed, when you get complacent, and when you don't have to worry about anything, everything's okay, everything's cool, I'm cool, you're cool, I'm okay, you're okay. That is when death will come and knock you down. So fear is a friendly reminder that be on your toes, be ready, chant the holy name. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam, all praise to Srila Prabhupada. Thanks for your wonderful Krishna Katha Maharaj. So I had fortunate to have your darshan, and I actually saw your play like 6-7 years ago in Cleveland. I guess you and your team had some devotees.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes, Maharaj. Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj Memorial. So wonderful. And I met you in Florida also. Thank you so much, Maharaj. And I am very inspired by your walks and all. So Maharaj, my question is, I also kind of like to walk, of course, not like you, but I try to finish my japa in the morning before sunrise, and also few rounds I sit and chant first, and then I walk and chant in the community when there is no one. So, is that okay, Maharaj, to walk and chant, or
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained that there's no hard and fast rule. So I think that what you describe is pretty good. I think that it's a nice balance. Some chanting can be done sitting down. Some can be done by walking. See, we have different body types. Like some people are just like, they're happy to be in a corner, but some of us are more passionate. We feel, I've got to move. To feel alive, I have to move. So if you're chanting during that time, it's not a big problem. Prabhupada did it. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, they would pace and chant at the same time. There's no hard and fast rule, really. You can chant standing on your head if you want. It's not just, but the main thing is to chant. Okay, you can chant sideways. You can chant when meditating underwater in the nearby lake. Just somehow or other, don't drown.
Thank you so
much. I know sometimes people express that, it should be done only quietly, but I don't think that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did himself. He would do a lot of chanting and walking and keeping count of his japa while going on pilgrimage. So the main thing is to chant. I was told once that one devotee complained about another one to Prabhupada, say, Prabhupada, he's putting on tilak in the washroom, or in the bathroom, whatever. What do you call it there in the States?
Bathroom.
Bathroom, yeah. Okay. We say washroom. The French have it right. They say the toilet. Okay. So, and so this devotee was complaining, Prabhupada, he's putting on tilak in the bathroom. And Prabhupada said, he's putting on tilak.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
If somebody's taking a shower, it's like a public shower, and someone comes in and criticizes, oh, you're so dirty. So, yeah, but I'm taking a shower. The dirt's coming off. You're not in the shower and you're dirty. So who are you? I think you do whatever it takes to be attentive as much as you can. Sometimes sitting down helps. Sometimes walking helps. And I find most devotees do a combination of the two. Yeah. And I know some people, they chant their japa when they're driving to work. And maybe it's not the best, and they have a clicker. And it's maybe not the best, but at least they're chanting. Some people find they don't have much time. They're just pressured with the family. Hey, back off, He's chanting, for God's sake. Leave him alone. Sometimes we get so critical of such detail. And I think that if you're just doing the general practice of chanting, that's good enough.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Maharaj, if you don't mind, so I saw a chat message from Shiv Vilas Prabhu that, you described about, empowering and because you as Maharaj also, multitasking with the GBC and, the, sannyasi activities and all. So would you like to, tell anything about that, Maharaj? I'm not sure.
Anything about sannyas or anything about GBC?
Yeah, so Prabhuji mentioned that, ISKCON members and Bhakti Maharaj, thinks about because GBC members are mixed roles, gurus and administrators. There is too much multitasking and lack of empowerment and all.
I'm sorry, lack of what was the last thing?
Lack of empowerment. Empowerment.
Are you? What are you suggesting that?
No, Maharaj. I was trying to understand more about it.
Okay, so what I understand you're saying is that you've got gurus, you've got sannyasis, and administrators all wrapped in one, and we've taken on a lot of tasks. Yeah, and then you said something about not empowering people, or
yes, I think you mentioned. I think Shubhalas Prabhu's message says that too much of multitasking for the sannyasis.
Yeah. That's right. Yes, it's true. I think maybe we touched on that last time I was there. Yeah, there needs to be a lot more of that, and therefore we've started the GBC College. Therefore, leaders have already been putting themselves into a secondary position and brought people and empowered them to take leadership roles. Yeah, I think that's that is going on. Maybe not at a speedy rate. I think a lot of our leaders are a little concerned because within the next 10 years, many of them will perish. And they're thinking, wow, we've got this worldwide organization and there's still a lot of things to be sorted out. And they're a little bit worried that second generation may not be able to sort out some of those more highly subtle philosophical issues, Guru Tattva and so forth, and female gurus, things like that. That might be a little hard for the next gen to handle, and I think that's why some devotees might be holding on. I know that in my case, I've identified with leaders that who can be able to take over should I go. I'm not ready to leave just now because I feel the same way. There's still a little shakiness, and I sometimes worry about some of the things that could happen should the first crop, shall we say, leave this world suddenly. I feel a sense of uneasiness myself, but I think that that's in their mind. We shall empower, we must empower. You've got Ramia there, and he's such a good soul. He is one of my favorites. I mean, from Florida, I must admit. He's such a good man, and I'm sure he'll empower you in areas that you need to be placed. So I was just looking for, I don't know if time allows, it's on the subject. I've written a number of poems, and I'm just going to one that's kind of pertinent to the topic. Okay, I don't know if you want to hear it. Are you ready?
Yes, Maharaj, please.
It's praising Prabhupada and his Vyas Puja's coming out. Okay, here it is. It's called In Our Hand. I keep in my kurta pocket a worry that you'll be forgotten, that results of hard work done will be tossed like air on cotton. I have a thought that the cutting edge you brought will be twisted in all that you've taught. I have a concern that as the clock keeps ticking and time passes quickly, Kali increases his tricking. In my humble opinion, I feel danger lurks ahead unless we stick to our guns, anchor sadhana, and kirtan be spread. In my other pocket, a feeling that your mercy will linger. Success will be proceeding where'er you point the finger. I can say for certain that 50 years have passed. Recognition will come. Your legacy bound to last. I have these mixed feelings regarding failure or success. Only time will tell. Make, break, or BMS. Yours was the first step. Ours is the second, the third, and the fourth. The deck is in our hand. So what we're saying here is that we have a responsibility to continue on and with management and a legacy to preserve. And the way that this will come about is we will be successful if we read about Prabhupada and how he was thinking and how he was conducting himself. I think that's of utmost importance to really get a hold on Prabhupada's persona, his personality. Somebody's ringing the phone like crazy. I'll be with you in a second. Hello? Hello? I'm still on the phone, on the call. Please, you come and see me. Okay, I'm back again. So, all right. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to have left you like that. So I think there's a strong concern. We discussed the other day, GBC members, we had a meeting. We were discussing about samadhis in Mayapur. So that's a concern. How big should they be? How small? Should there be any at all? You know, what's best for the future? And, you know, that's just like a topic. Does anybody else think about that? But our leaders do. And we've been talking about the controversial thing, female gurus, second generation gurus, etc. Important stuff, you know. And I think with COVID, I think what's happening is that we're having these online meetings and it's forcing us to be more professional about everything and how to get things done and to move with efficiency. So I see it as an opportunity for us to pick up the speed a little bit. So that's my comment on that.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri.
I hope that all of you will become big leaders and learn how to, you know, go to some city and open up a big temple. If you're all in Tampa, then Tampa's a fair-sized city. What, 1 million people? That's my guess.
Yes, ma'am.
1 million people. So in every corner of the city, you should have a center and a community, right? And you guys should be getting together, having meetings, nights at the round table, and working congenially, you know, like brothers and sisters. Yeah.
Yes, Maharaj. With your blessing, Maharaj.
I notice things are getting better in some ways. People are saying Hare Krishna more to me on the street than when I first joined. You know, this is everybody, like Caucasian people, Black folks, everybody. They're all just showing a little more respect and putting their palms together like this. And people are definitely becoming, their lives, their culture is changing. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Good signs. Thank you so much, and we miss you. I hope we can come and see you again.
Yeah, wonderful, Maharaj.
In person, and we can have a wild kirtan once again.
And a drama.
And just blow the roof off the top of the house.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. I think we already across the time. I'm not sure if there is time for more questions, but we don't want to take too much of your precious time. So, do you have time for one more question, Maharaj?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Vasudhi Mataji, you can unmute.
Hi Krishna Prabhuji, my humble obeisances on your lotus feet. Very nice Krishna Katha, Maharaj. My question is about leaving the body. So, we know that Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj, who left his body with his own decision when he came to know that his cancer will not be curable, materially not curable. So he decided not eating anything, just drinking water, and he that way he left his body. So he is a spiritual master, so he knows the absolute truth. So he can take the decision of leaving the body. But how about a regular devotee who are feeling the same similar condition? Do they have a right to leave the body like that way?
Circumstantial, depends on the situation. I think usually it's a good idea in most cases that people should take advice, consultation.
Maharaj, sorry to interrupt. The voice is not properly audible. Something happened.
Can you hear me now?
It's very faint. The intensity, the volume reduced.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, Maharaj. It's faint, but it's audible.
Well, if one is an adult, you're more in a stronger position to decide what you do with yourself, isn't it? But when you're independent, that becomes a little more difficult. It really depends on the circumstance. I had a god sister, but she was in so much pain. She decided to go the euthanasia route. So I read to her the Bhagvatam a few days before she passed on, and that's just the way she decided to go. I may not say that's regularly done, but I think you have to honor the wishes of people sometimes. I went to see a Sikh gentleman in the hospital some years ago, and he had tubes all coming through his body, and I was with him for a few minutes alone, and he looked at me straight in the eyes, and he goes like this: "Relieve me, let me go." The scissors, make the scissors go. So I think it's the person's choice, in most cases in the end, and it also has a lot to do with what Kṛṣṇa wants. So I think that's the proper move. Kṛṣṇa, what do you want of me? Do you want me to go now? Should I fight this thing? Should I fight this to the point where I might be able to shake off the malady and continue on and live a few more years? What is it that you want, my Lord? The devotee is always trying to think, my Lord, what is it that you're wanting me to do? Do you want me to take a right step, a left step, go forward, go backward, like that? Try to understand the indications of the Lord. That is what is a Vaishnava.
All right. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for a wonderful question answer session and Krishna Katha. So at this point, we will unmute everyone, and everyone can express their gratitude by loudly chanting Haribo,
Haribo, Haribo,
Haribo, Ki Jai. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for
Thank you,
your...
Maharaj.
Thank you, Ramia. You look different without your glasses. Very well. Take care.
Hare Krishna. Please come again, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to all the devotees for joining.
Thank you.
Tomorrow we will be having this program at 7:30 a.m. instead of 9 a.m. So please join. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.